Okay, so what if we looked at a sacred text, not just as a collection of stories, but as a piece of complex, divine system architecture? Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to look at the Quran through a totally different lens, mapping out its core laws, identifying a recurring bug in the human program, and, you guessed it, uncovering its built-in debug protocols.
And the key, the master password that unlocks this entire system, is a single, incredibly elegant principle: the Law of Functional Parity. This is the core logic, you could say, that governs every single interaction within this grand design.
So, what is this law really? At its heart, it's all about balance. Think of it as the foundational blueprint for all of creation. The whole system is designed on one simple but powerful rule. For every single force, an equal and opposite counterforce is generated from its own essence, to keep everything in check.
And this is where we can actually see the code in action. The source material here reframes this verse you see, not as simple biology, but as high-level system design. When it says God made mates from yourselves, it's really describing functional opposites. Every character, every force, is just one half of a bigger equation, and it's perfectly balanced by its counterparts somewhere else across the timeline.
This brings us to the very first and maybe the most important pair that sets this whole thing in motion: Adam and Miriam. In this framework, Adam represents a state of potential chaos, of entropy. The source calls him the ignorant vessel. So to balance that, the system generates Miriam, the purified seal, a state of absolute order and light. But here's the twist. They're separated by what the source calls the hijab of time, like a firewall, until the book, the system's own shared memory, can finally bring them back together.
Right. So if Adam is the initial variable, what happens when that variable is just left unchecked? Well, this is where we find the main bug in the human operating system. It's called the Adam-Pharaoh loop, a totally predictable error that causes the user to spiral down from a state of simple ignorance into one of absolute terrifying tyranny.
This bug always unfolds in three predictable stages. First, Adam accepts the trust, but he's in a state of ignorance, which creates the potential for chaos. Then comes the unraveling. If this isn't corrected by the system's memory, it just unravels into a tangled web of self-deception, like an old woman undoing her own work. And finally, the fossil. That pride hardens. It crystallizes into a monument of pure arrogance, Pharaoh's body, which is preserved as a permanent warning sign for anyone who comes after.
And this is the bug's terminal error message. Pharaoh's declaration, "I am your Lord the Most High." It's the system's ultimate crash state. It's the finite, created user trying to take on the role of the creator. It's the logical endpoint of pride that's been left to run wild.
So if there's a bug, you know there has to be a patch. And there is. It's a built-in antivirus, a divine protocol for debugging the human soul. It's called the anti-Hārūt protocol. Hārūt basically means any kind of falsehood or tyranny that oversteps its bounds. And this protocol, first taught to Ibrahim, is encoded right into the book for anyone to write.
Now, the fundamental rule of this protocol is fascinating. It says that you never ever defeat falsehood with brute force. Why? Because direct confrontation just feeds it, makes it stronger. Instead, you dissolve it. You dissolve it with relentless, logical questioning until it just collapses under the weight of its own lies.
And here's how the debugging algorithm actually works, in 4 pretty clear steps. Step 1. Question. You test every authority you see, the stars, the moon, the sun. And, just like Abraham, you realize that anything that sets, anything temporary, can't be the ultimate source. Step 2. Orient. With all those lesser powers out of the way, you orient yourself exclusively to the one unchanging creator. Step 3. Expose. You use pure logic to trap the falsehood, making it testify against its own powerlessness. And finally, step 4. Neutralize. Once your orientation is locked in and the lie is exposed, the fire of tyranny and coercion, it just loses its power over you.
And that right there is the critical takeaway. The fire becoming cool and safe for Ibrahim. That isn't magic. Within this system's architecture, it's a legal consequence. It's the predictable outcome of running the anti-Hārūt protocol correctly. You could almost call it a matter of spiritual physics, not miracles.
Okay, now we get to the real climax of this whole narrative. We've seen the bug and we've seen the antivirus. But how does the system actually reboot itself when it's on the brink of a total crash? Well, this is where we get to the cry that saves.
Which brings us to the most important question in the entire system, right?
If that Adam to Pharaoh loop is the default downward spiral for an ignorant user, what on earth pulls them out of it? How does the soul hit reboot before it turns into a fossil? The answer, in this framework, is this cry. This is the prayer of Asiya, Pharaoh's wife. But in the system's logic, she stands for something much deeper. Her cry is the ruh, the pure essential soul, crying out from deep inside the corrupted nafs, that prideful ego that has bloated into the monster we know as Pharaoh. Asiya's cry is the trigger. It accesses a core memory in the system's very first user, Adam's own repentance. It's like her desperate call allows Adam to watch the tape of his own potential future, to see the tyrant he is absolutely destined to become. And in that one moment of pure, horrified recognition, he finally remembers where he came from and repents. So let's just put that whole loop together. Adam starts as the ignorant vessel, balanced by Miriam, the purified seal. The book is supposed to reconnect them. But when the book is forgotten, Adam's default setting is to become Pharaoh. His lies unravel, his pride is preserved as a warning sign. But from deep inside that mess, the soul Asiya cries out. And that cry triggers the original memory, and Adam finally remembers, rebooting the whole system.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. The book isn't just a record of what's already happened. In this system, it is a preventative blueprint. It's a memory of what will happen if the protocol is ignored. So in a very real sense, it's the memory of the future. And that memory is the only thing that keeps Adam from becoming Pharaoh.